around the world. Now you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of any of the other channels? That's because over here, I actually care about what you have to say. I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and it's turning into something truly, truly special. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of The Herd with Colin Cowherd, talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Micah Parsons came out, I guess, made a statement saying that they need other players, or they somehow called out the Cowboys staff. I think I love Micah Parsons, honestly, I really do, and I'm even an Eagles fan, but I really do. I love his personality, I love his energy, I love how much he cares, honestly. He cares so much, like he just truly bleeds for football, and he bleeds for his team, and so I really appreciate that, but I don't like, to me, this is a bad look. And then also, if you're saying that, well, this way, I have a very specific point that I want to make, but I want to see Colin Cowherd. I want to see what Colin Cowherd says first.
The more interesting part today to me is actually Dallas. So, again, Dan Quinn's a very good DC, and he was more than capable as a head coach. His best years were with Kyle Shanahan, but that's okay. The Steelers would love to get a Kyle Shanahan as an...
Okay, yeah, see, I hope we get the players we're missing. Well, I thought you guys were going to win the Super Bowl, or at least get to the Super Bowl, which would then imply that you're not missing any players. So before you had all this faith in your own team and that you were going to be able to do it, now that you guys were not good enough and got blown out by the Packers, now suddenly you're missing players. And then now you're also indirectly and / directly calling out your own team and what you guys just did, which I think is just a bad look. I think that's not cool, especially when you're Micah Parsons, who's so amazing, so elite, and so at the top of the level of your game. You're punching down into your own team. You're looking around at everyone else and saying, you weren't good enough. I was good enough, but you were not good enough. And that's just a bad look. I think, again, Micah Parsons has had such high levels and great success and is so highly respected that I think that's just, that's not your place to do that publicly. If you want to do that in the exit interviews, if you even want to go up and talk to the owner, GM, I don't know what type of relationship he has with some of these guys of, where he has the ability to go out and talk to these guys. But I just think, you're a leader of this team. You're at the top of your game. You're in your prime. You're also at this point, considered a seasoned vet. Obviously a younger one, but still, nonetheless. And I just think that that's a bad look to just publicly say that. I mean, it's also not taking on any responsibility of the outcome yourself, which is also interesting because his position doesn't necessarily allow him to have all this, right? It would be worse if it was Dak, right? Because it's well, Dak, you're the quarterback, right? You're the one, pretty much everything stops and starts with you. So it's not as bad, but he's a leader of that defense.
An offensive coordinator. Rocked. There's no question a brilliant offensive coordinator always helps a defensive coach. Hopefully Dan Quinn can land one. But it's very unlikely Dallas is going to land a young DC that elevates that defense like Dan Quinn did. But here's the other thing that's interesting. So Micah Parsons, it has been a very noisy last couple of weeks for Dallas. So Micah Parsons yesterday, podcast, grabbed his mic and called out the staff. In the last couple of weeks, CeeDee Lamb's mom called out Dak. Micah Parsons' brother called out the Cowboy organization. Micah Parsons now calling out the coaches, and Dak's brother called out the fans. Why is this all happening? Well, I think there's two reasons. Number one is when you pay a B to a B-plus quarterback Mahomes money, there are limitations on the roster, and you're going to be disappointed in the playoffs. I think Dak's a solid quarterback. I've said it before. He's Kirk Cousins with better mobility. That's what he is. The numbers don't lie. But they pay him like Mahomes. Next year's cap hits $59.5 million. That's outrageous for Dak. And if you look at Dak Prescott in the postseason, and that's where you earn the bag, he has had one in 8 years, one great playoff game. That was against the Bucs. He ate them up. He had a great, great game. He's had one other really good game. That was a loss at the Rams. Oh, excuse me. That was a loss against the Packers. Outside of that, one great game, one really good game, $59 million cap hit next year. And I think Dallas has mostly not been that noisy. You know, Dez Bryant was the last noisy Cowboy. Why in the last couple of weeks, CeeDee Lamb, Dak's brother, Micah Parsons' brother, why? You know why, in my opinion? Because all those Cowboy players, and players see the truth, watched a young Jordan Love walk into Dallas. Had a better arm than Dak, moved a lot better than Dak, was more accurate than Dak, makes about 1/8 of Dak, and players went, he's just going in to the next 10 years. I think Cowboy players, I think Jordan Love walking into that stadium and lighting up Dallas with the youngest playoff roster since the 1970 Bills, and Jordan moves better than Dak. He's got a better whip than Dak. He's more consistently accurate than Dak, and he's not even into his prime yet, and he's not making any money. I mean, why else over the last 2 to 3 weeks? I mean, the Cowboys have lost playoff games before. Why would it get so noisy?
Well, so if you remember the preseason, things started getting noisy, or they had that big. I forget if it was Parsons or Diggs. So if someone remembers, please let me know, where they kind of was like really screaming in Dak's face. And I think that was like a whole back and forth where we said, like, does that show that he respects him? Like, what's going on? Is Dak losing the team? Would anyone do that to Mahomes? Is anyone doing that to, any Joe Burrow, any of these other big players? And the quarterback has to be the leader of your team, because it's just too important of a position, right? No one can dispute that. And if the quarterback's not really universally respected, that is a tough path forward, especially if that quarterback is making insane amounts of money. And again, as Colin pointed out, he's making Mahomes money. And if you're making Mahomes money, then you better play like Mahomes. And he's not, obviously. He's not Mahomes. He's not even close to being Mahomes. And again, I've always agreed with what Colin said about the Kirk Cousins comparison, who's just a little bit more mobile, a little bit more cool, a little bit more chill, a little bit more hip. So I would say that, and he just plays for cooler teams, right? He plays for the Dallas Cowboys. But I would say that Dak has a really big uphill battle with this. This is kind of reminiscent, and I think Dak is better than Baker Mayfield, but this was like kind of how Baker Mayfield really became like enemy number one for the Cleveland Browns, and then obviously famously having Odell Beckham Jr. saying like, get me out of here, and then he left, played great, won a Super Bowl, right? I mean, that's like the ultimate, like, I told you, get me out of here, and I told you Baker can't do it. And then Baker somewhat this past season was kind of redeemed. I think that redemption is a little bit overblown. I mean, I'm happy for Baker, but I don't want to start pretending like we're going to start saying that Baker Mayfield's this top 5 quarterback now, because he's not. And I think with Dak, this was always the risk of Dak making sure that he got max money, making sure that he was seen as the leader of that team, and that everything stops and starts with him. Because if that's the case, then that's the responsibility you get. All the weight is on you. It all has to stop and start with you. You put a massive target on your back. And so it's like, you better show up. And if you don't, then you're going to have a lot of angry, hungrier, less paid players angry at you. And that's the way it works. And so, and that's what we're seeing with Micah, CeeDee Lamb, and any of these other players. And they're just like, kind of like, we're doing everything we can, and you're not. You're not good enough. You're the issue, and yet you're still making all this amount of money. And I think the great point of it is seeing Jordan Love. Micah Parsons gets a front row seat of what Jordan Love can do, and he's thinking, wow, Jordan Love just did things I've never seen Dak do. And he's been in the league for, I don't count any of the other seasons. Like this is his first real season. And so I know he's not technically a rookie, but it's just like he's barely played and yet he's playing way better than Dak, or he's definitely having higher highs than Dak. And I think that, I think Micah has always had eyes somewhere else, because he even made the joke, oh, Quinn, who knows, maybe Quinn will take me with him. He's made jokes about the Eagles, how great they are, and he's always had, little heart eye emojis for the Eagles last season, and then even this season, going into this season with the draft and stuff. And so I think a part of Micah has always been somewhat unhappy, and now when you have enough newer players coming into the Cowboys organization, because Dak came in for a team that when he was obviously replacing Romo, and he was like this new up and comer, and then he kind of got settled with the team around him, and then now pretty much all those players are gone, and now Dak has settled into his role, and then you have these new players coming in, newish players, and they're like, well, wait a second, why is Dak all the way elevated? Like, we're the dogs here. We're the dogs. And again, now it's like, and Dak is what's holding us back. And this is also just human nature, where no one wants to take responsibility. And so again, people always end up being scapegoats. And I don't want to say that Dak's necessarily being a scapegoat or being misaligned, because I think a lot of the criticism that Dak gets is well deserved, honestly, as Colin also pointed out with his playoff performances. But it's just one of those things where Dak is definitely an easy target. And this is why I always call out people who want to say, that the criticism towards someone like a Brock Purdy is like unprecedented. And it's like, it's just not, because quarterbacks get criticized all the time. Josh Allen gets criticized. Joe Burrow gets criticized. Jalen Hurts gets criticized. Patrick Mahomes somewhat gets criticized, not as of late, but a few years ago when he had a big stretch where he was not playing so great, got criticized. And he even got criticized this season for the offense not doing too well. And Dak Prescott's getting criticized. So quarterbacks get criticized. That comes with the territory. If you're going to play the most important position in all of sports and you're going to get paid more money than God makes, well, you're going to have a target on your back. It's just that, that is part of the deal. Can't get everything you want. So that's really the way how I'm looking at it. And I just think that Dak, I think Dak has reached his ceiling. So I think the problem is that now the Cowboys, either the franchise as a whole, the coaching staff, the fans, or himself, they're going to put this expectation that Dak needs to like elevate, and it's not possible. Why do we think he's going to be able to elevate his game? And to me, it seems like the Cowboys really have two sets of fans. One, it's either Dak is amazing and all the reasons why they failed has nothing to do with Dak. This isn't Dak's fault. It's either the coach or the defense or, whatever. Or you have people that say Dak is the problem. Dak is holding us back. Get rid of Dak. And it really seems to be just 50-50. I mean, it seems like any Cowboys fan I talk to, you really have no idea what you're going to get with that regard. And it's really fascinating because, and it seems like those fans also have wars within each other. There's a lot of people that claim that people like Dak more than the Cowboys themselves. That they're more Dak fans than anything else, which is pretty interesting. It's a little bit harder for me to see, outside looking in. But Dak obviously definitely has this loyal fan base of his. But and again, the biggest problem with Dak is that he's a really good quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback. And so when you have a really good quarterback, it's like, what do you do with that? Because he can obviously win games. He can have really amazing high moments, but he can't bring it to that next gear, that next level. So this is what I kind of keep saying about Dak. The way to win with Dak is you need to pay him significantly less money. You can't pay him Patrick Mahomes money. If you pay him Patrick Mahomes money, then he needs to play like Patrick Mahomes. It's just that cut and dry. And if not, then you are now wasting that money on him and you can't put it around him. And so you're not going to be good. You can win with Dak. You can win a Super Bowl with Dak, but you need an amazing team. You need a stacked team. I think if Dak Prescott played for the 49ers right now, there would be a great chance that he could win the Super Bowl with Shanahan as his coach. And because I think he'll be able to do exactly what Shanahan needs. And with all the weapons of McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, I think that absolutely Dak could win. But a notch below the 49ers team? No, I don't think so. Can he outduel Patrick Mahomes? Maybe 1 out of 10 times. Like 1 out of 10, maybe slightly higher. I don't know. It's a little harder to gauge, but you're definitely not banking on it. You're not banking that he has that ability to just put the Cowboys on his back and say, I got you, let's go. Or if the defense is having a rough outing and he's like, all right, we just got to put up points, let's go. That's just not in Dak's DNA. It's just not. And he's not proven to be able to do that. And I don't know why, if he hasn't proven to do it in the past, why you're going to suddenly think that he's going to be able to do it into the future. But what do you all think? I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this one. Do you think it was okay for Micah to call out the Cowboys and both players and staff, apparently? What do you think the Cowboys should do with Dak? Why do you think they're getting so noisy and everyone's getting kind of all angry and everything's more bubbling up? I would love to hear your thoughts. So please let me know them in the comments below. Please don't forget to subscribe. As I said, we are building an amazing community here and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as it really helps with the visibility and the algorithm and I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much and see you next time.